which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. It's Thursday for you TGIF fans. Sure happy it's Thursday. Today is December 21st. It is the winter solstice. More about that coming up later on this broadcast. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for being a part of it. Time now for us to do what we do when we start the Wells Report, give you the front page, a digest of news that happened since yesterday's broadcast and while we were asleep today. Colorado and Coloradans are not necessarily joyful about the Supreme Court decision in their state, this being reported from USA Today. The Colorado Supreme Court, Tuesday of this week, ruled that President Trump is ineligible for office, citing his January 6th urging for his supporters to storm the U.S. Capitol to stop the counting of Electoral College votes. That decision is on hold, however, likely until the U.S. Supreme Court weighs in. While many of the Democrat-dominated states supports the move, some doubt the decision will hold or fear it will backfire. Standing outside a coffee shop with a Progress Pride flag displayed in the window, Tanzer, a sci-fi author, said she'd watched Trump evade court ruling after ruling and suspects he'll survive this one too. She said she's grown frustrated with the Democrat Party over the years, including former President Barack Obama, for being too willing to trust institutions and systems to protect rights and democracy. She says, quote, Republicans never play fair. The decision Democrats keep failing is because we keep trying to play fair. Reports of threats being issued after the Trump decision. This from NBC News. In the 24 hours since the Colorado Supreme Court kicked former President Donald Trump off the state's Republican primary ballot. Social media outlets have been flooded with threats against justices who ruled in the case. This, according to a report obtained by NBC News. Advanced Democracy, a nonpartisan nonprofit organization that conducts public interest research, identified, quote, significant violent rhetoric, unquote, against the justices and Democrats, often in direct response to President Trump's posts about the ruling on his platform, Truth Social. They found that some social media users posted justices' email addresses, phone numbers, and office building addresses. Liz Cheney says a second Trump term would unravel the rule of law. This from USA Today. Former Representative Liz Cheney, the Republican from Wyoming, alleged in an interview Monday that former President Donald Trump would, quote, unravel the rule of law, unquote, if he wins re-election and appoints aides to blow through the guardrails of the Constitution. She told Fox News' Bret Baier she was fearful of a second Trump administration, pointing to his efforts to contest the 2020 election and his response to the January 6th, 2021 Capitol riot. Quote, if you look at the steps he would have to take in terms of simply refusing to enforce court orders or comply with court orders with which he disagrees, putting people in key positions as Attorney General, for example, or as a head of the Justice Department Office of Legal Counsel, unethical lawyers that would help him, frankly, blow through many of the guardrails of our Constitution. More news from Harvard as we turn to the academy today. The university, Harvard, has found more duplicative language in President Claudine Gay's work. This being reported by DNYUZ. Harvard University, in the face of mounting questions over possible plagiarism in the scholarly work of its president, Claudine Gay, said yesterday they found 2 additional instances of insufficient citation of her work. The issues were found in Dr. Gay's 1997 doctoral dissertation, in which Harvard said it found 2 examples of, quote, duplicative language, without appropriate attribution. Last week, Harvard said in an earlier review had found 2 published articles that needed additional citations. The news was an embarrassing development for the university, which has sought to quell tumult over Dr. Gay's leadership in recent weeks. On Wednesday, yesterday, a congressional committee currently investigating Harvard sent a letter to the university demanding all of its documentation and communications related to these allegations. The Harvard president, for her part, plans to revise her doctoral dissertation. This from a Harvard spokesman reported on CNN. The university reviewed more of Claudine Gay's academic work. The president plans to update her 1997 PhD dissertation to correct additional instances of, quote, inadequate citation. But Harvard did not use the word plagiarism in its review of Gay's work. The new corrections, first reported by the Harvard Crimson, are on top of the ones that Gay issued last week to 2 scholarly articles she wrote in the 2000s. But a review by CNN, which published yesterday, found Gay's previous requested corrections did not address even clearer examples of plagiarism from her early academic work, including her dissertation. Quote, President Gay will update her dissertation, correcting these instances of inadequate citation, according to a university spokesperson. Fox News reports that Harvard has lost 17% of early acceptance offers. A college administration's consultant is in, quote, complete shock, unquote, as students are rejecting their early acceptance to Harvard for the first time in his career. Quote, virtually every student I've ever worked with who got into Harvard early pretty much stopped and are looking elsewhere, said Christopher Rim, the CEO of New York and Miami-based Command Education, speaking Wednesday to Fox and Friends First. Quote, this is the first time in first application season where I've seen a student who got into Harvard early that I've worked with for almost 3.5 years, 4 years now, starting in 9th grade. We're seeing them say, you know what? I want to apply to other schools because what if I graduate and this stigma and this damaged reputation of Harvard stays the same, unquote. That's their true concern. Turning to the Middle East, Israeli and Hamas conflicts continue. When the news of the October 7th's attacks on southern Israel by Hamas militants reached Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, many took to the streets in celebration, distributing sweets, cheering fighters as they paraded hostages through the enclave. Since then, however, criticism has begun spreading against the militant group, Gazans blaming the militants for having provoked Israel's wrath and for their inability to shield the population from a devastating war and a humanitarian crisis that deepens by the day. Quote, people are dying every minute, said a 56-year-old businessman from Gaza. Hamas is one that dragged us into this terrible vortex. Nearly 20,000 people have been killed in Gaza since the start of the war, according to Palestinian health officials. A majority of the fatalities in Gaza are women and children, they say. The figures don't distinguish between civilians and combatants. While a majority of Palestinians still blame Israel for death, destruction, and dislocation by the war or caused by the war, many Gazans now say Hamas is also responsible for the suffering, and those voices are getting louder. In weapons news today, federal judge has set aside a California carry law. This from Fox News. A federal judge yesterday temporarily blocked a California law that would have banned carrying of firearms in most public places after ruling that it violates the Second Amendment. U.S. District Judge Cormac Carney granted a preliminary injunction blocking the law, calling it, quote, a sweeping, repugnant to the Second Amendment and open defiance of the Supreme Court. He also said the law deprives people of the ability to defend themselves and their loved ones. The ruling was a win for the California Rifle and Pistol Association, which sued to block the law. Quote, California progressive politicians refuse to accept the Supreme Court's mandate from the Bruen case and are trying every creative ploy they can imagine to get around it. This, according to the California Association's president, Chuck Michel, in a statement. The court saw through the state's gambit. While we're on the subject of weapons, the Chinese military has developed what they call thought weapons. This from the Washington Times. China's military is developing advanced psychological warfare and brain-influencing weapons as part of their new war-fighting strategy, according to a report on the People's Liberation Army Cognitive Warfare Center. The report, Warfare in the Cognitive Age, Neurostrike and the PLA's Advanced Psychological Weapons and Tactics was published earlier this month by the CCP Biothreats Institute, a research group. Quote, the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, is at the forefront of incorporating advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence, brain-computer interfaces, and novel biological weapons into its military strategies. This, according to the think tank's analysts. The report identified 2 recent studies by China's army that open-source researchers say indicate the Chinese military is augmenting hard power weapons with new types of arms to help win wars without conventional weapons. The new arms include biological weapons designed to induce sleep or sleep-related disturbances in enemy troops. The goal is to impair cognition and alertness. Other weapons involve devices that establish a direct connection between the brain and external technology, designed to influence cognitive processes and decision-making. Brain-controlled weapons are also being developed to enable precise targeting and manipulation of cognitive functions in enemy troops or their leaders. In science news today, California researchers, this being reported by CNN, California researchers, scientists, shooting nearly 200 lasers at a cylinder holding a fuel capsule the size of a peppercorn, have taken another step in the quest for fusion energy, which, if mastered, could provide the world with a near limitless source of clean power. Scientists at the National Ignition Facility at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California managed in a world first to produce a nuclear fusion reaction that released more energy than it used in a process called ignition. Now they say they have successfully replicated that ignition at least 3 times this year, according to a report from the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Unlike nuclear fission, which the process used in the world's nuclear plants today, which is generated by the division of atoms, nuclear fusion leaves no legacy of long-lived radioactive waste. Entertainment news. The Golden Globes still has no host for their award shows. This from Showbiz 411. The Golden Globes will air live on CBS January 7th, 2024. The show still has no host. According to reports, many comedians have turned down the opportunity to front the formerly scandal-plagued group. It's the irony of the Globes, who one insider said is a great brand, but nobody respects it. One report said Chris Rock declined the job. Former hosts Ricky Gervais, Amy Poehler, and Tina Fey have no interest in returning. Last year's hope, comic Jared Carmichael, was a disaster, according to the article. He referred to the Beverly Hilton Hotel, which, like the Globes, Dick Clark Productions, and the Hollywood Reporter, are all owned by the same person, a man named Todd Boehly, as being the place where Whitney Houston died. So he's off the list. The Critics' Choice Awards are all set for January 14th with Chelsea Handler. The Grammy Awards have Trevor Noah. The Oscars are represented by Jimmy Kimmel. The Super Bowl has already booked Usher to perform the halftime show. And while we are on the subject of nature, not that we were, the winter solstice is today. It is the world's shortest day, this being reported by CNN. The winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, and the official first day of winter, is today, this year. Well, for the vast bulk of Americans anyway. How the solstices, along with the spring and fall equinoxes, all that work has fascinated people for thousands of years. It's a day when science intermixes with ancient traditions around the world. The winter solstice marks the shortest day of the year and the longest night in the northern hemisphere, when the sun appears at its most southerly position, directly overhead the Tropic of Capricorn. The situation is reversed in the southern hemisphere. Only 10% of the world's population lives there. If you'd like to be super precise in your observation, the exact time of the 2023 winter solstice worldwide will be at 3:27 Universal Coordinated Time today. This according to earthsky.org and the Farmer's Almanac. Happy winter solstice. And that is today's front page. We've got lots more to talk about today here on the Wells Report. Coming up in just a couple of seconds, we turn to the world of sports. Aaron Andrews has come up with a list of things you simply must have when you attend a sporting event. We'll be going over some of that with you as we continue. Also, people are not exactly thrilled about the Colorado Supreme Court decision, and some are taking very drastic measures. That comes up too on the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. Hi, John David Wells at your service. A lot of people on the chat room. Mike Renwy. Good morning, Mike. How are you? I want to say hi to Martha Brothers, Yvonne Field. They're all here joining us. You can too. Go to Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, Rumble, and Patreon, and you can interact with us. By the way, Martha Brothers is a former registered nurse, or she may be still a registered nurse. Martha, are you still a nurse? Anyway, she asked me about the surgery on my face. I had a small piece of basal cell skin cancer cut off of my face, and I'm not wearing bandages today. The only real difficulty is you can't shave around the area, so I have this tuft of hair right here. It's what? Erin Andrews is a brilliant sideline reporter. She's amazing. And she travels all over the world. She tries to figure out how to keep herself healthy, et cetera, et cetera. She's come up with 9 things you simply must have if you're going to go to some large sporting event or a sequence of them. She starts out with See the Moon Malibu Made Body Scrub. She says it's so deliciously good. Yeah, it removes dead skin cells, replenishes the skin using organic oils and food-grade vanilla brown sugar. I need it because I get so dehydrated from traveling. It leaves my skin feeling soft and never dull, especially in the winter. Fenty Gloss Balm Cream Color Drip Lip Cream. This is going to look great at your next tailgating party. Covering the Super Bowl has its perks. She got to perform with Rihanna, and she says, gosh, this lip gloss has a great glow to it. She also keeps Listerine Cool Mint Breath Strips, the 3-pack. She keeps them handy. It kills bad germs, freshens breath. That way, when she's talking to players, she doesn't have bad breath. Thorne Basic Prenatal Vitamins. Though Andrews shares she's no longer trying to get pregnant, she's been advised to keep regularly taking this dietary supplement. Her doctors say it's good for you. It's got calcium, biotin, zinc, vitamin A, magnesium. It's got everything in it. Why wouldn't I want it? She also says bring a Tempur-Pedic travel pillow. In case you happen to be watching an amazing defensive duel where the score is less than in double digits. Those lumpy hotel pillows don't lead to beauty sleep. They don't have any support in them. That's why she totes around a comfortable horseshoe-shaped travel pillow made by Tempur-Pedic. Let's see, Upneek prescription eye drop. She uses the word obsess 3 times to describe her love of those. I use them right before I go on the field. They're great because the drops make it look like I've had some sleep. It opened my eyes a little wider. She also carries Split Nutrition peanut butter and grape jelly packs. For a sideline snack, Andrews opts for a PB&J sandwich minus the bread. Each packet is a mix of protein-rich peanut butter and grape jelly. You rip it open and suck it out like a Capri Sun. I can eat it really quickly while I'm running around. It doesn't leave a mess on my fingers. Then she also says you've got to have an Apple iPad, 10th generation. She admits she's no techie. She relies heavily on her new iPad, long battery life, liquid retina display. It's changed my life because I can do multiple things on it. I use a keyboard, watch games, do research in my notes, and she doesn't travel with her son for work. I can FaceTime him when he's with my parents. And then she also uses the Lima laser. To make herself camera ready, she uses a state-of-the-art infrared laser. The beauty device reaches the base layer of the skin, treats aging, redness, pigmentation, scars, and blemishes. I literally sit and glide it over my face. It helps with my wrinkles and the bags under my eyes. Maybe I should get one of those. She also says that if you're going out to any kind of sporting event, also take a small roll of electrical tape so that you can put it over the peepholes in your door. That's an important safety tip, I'm sure. Coming up in just a couple of seconds, a little bit of, shall we say, judicial remorse. People of Colorado aren't necessarily happy, or as happy as they thought they would be, about the Colorado Supreme Court decision to remove President Donald Trump from the primary ballot. There's just a little bit of upset with regards to perhaps what may be a massive blowback against the state of Colorado and, of course, President Trump. That's actually people who want to remove President Trump from the election of 2024. That's coming up in just a couple of moments. We also have lots more news as we continue on this Thursday morning. Telephone number 817-379-2172. Let's get together. This is The Welsh Report.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to Low Cost Airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
This is the Wells Report. What do? We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze that news for fact and bias. We point out both. We make commentary, not news. That's just opinion, yours and mine. And we debate. News analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. So there's a little bit of ruling remorse coming from the state of Colorado. It appears as though there are people now realizing that this could create some serious blowback for the mission to remove Donald Trump from national ballots across the nation. A complicated mix of emotions greet the shock court decision that barred President Donald Trump from next year's ballot in Colorado, even from people who supported the move, this being reported by USA Today. We spoke to you a minute ago during the front page about someone who calls herself Tanzel, or Tanzer rather. She's 42 years of age. And what she said is that the Democrats are failing because they always try to play fair. What? They always try to play fair. Yeah, she was holding her Progress Pride flag outside of a coffee shop, and she said that she's grown frustrated with the Democrat Party over the years, including former President Barack Obama, for being too willing to trust institutions and systems to protect rights and democracy. Yeah, she says Trump ignores court orders not to harass judicial workers or even the woman who was found civilly liable for sexually assaulting and defaming. Republicans never play fair, said Tanzer. The reason Democrats keep failing is because we try to play fair. Richard Parker, who's 57 years old, he's a business professor at the nearby University of Colorado, has a different concern. He worries that if the court decision stands, Trump and his supporters might try to block Democrats from the ballot, especially one in particular. Colorado has become a reliably Democrat voting state in recent decades. Trump received fewer than 42% of the votes cast in 2020, although he campaigned in the state's more conservative South, where there's a heavy military presence. This man said, yeah, that when he first heard the news, yeah, that's great. But second thought, he thought it would bolster his case that he's being witch hunted, speaking of Trump. So in the end, I kind of wish it hadn't happened as much as it feels right. I just feel that it's a really slippery slope. He's right. The decision drew swift condemnation from the state's Republican Party, which threatened to withdraw from the primary system and switch to a party-run caucus. Colorado permits unaffiliated voters to participate in the primaries, but caucuses are usually limited only to party members. By the way, Republicans are now threatening to take Joe Biden off ballots for similar circumstances being used against Donald Trump. Republicans are calling for the president to be removed from state presidential ballots following the Colorado court ruling that Donald Trump is not to be permitted on the ballot there. In a 4-3 decision, the Colorado Supreme Court ruled the former president violated the 14th Amendment, which bars public officials from holding federal office if they have engaged in insurrection. In November, a lower court in Colorado agreed with the plaintiffs, a group of Colorado voters, including Norma Anderson, a petitioner and former Republican majority leader of the Colorado House and Senate. She said that Trump engaged in insurrection over his behavior during the riot in the U.S. Capitol. During the siege, Trump supporters stormed the building in protest of the election loss. Trump is now the frontrunner of the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, and depending on what polls you look at, he's the frontrunner in the entire election. He's denied all wrongdoing and has not been charged with insurrection. He's argued the courts don't have the authority to bar candidates from the ballot under the constitutional provision. Now, some Republicans have said that Biden, too, should be removed from state ballots, although Newsweek is not clear on what constitutional grounds that would be. Well, that's because there are no constitutional grounds to remove President Biden from the ballot. Just like there is no constitutional mandate or capability to remove Donald Trump from the ballot. This is really simple. This is really straightforward. Donald Trump has been arguably convicted in the Colorado Supreme Court based on political innuendo and unsubstantiated, unproven, undeliberated charges. Well, what's the difference between that and those charges levied against Joe Biden? Joe Biden is accused of taking money from foreign nations through the auspices of his son Hunter and his entire family. He's being charged with bribery. Well, if we're going to start convicting people based on charges alone, how come Colorado hasn't removed Joe Biden? That's a really important question. And it hasn't been answered yet. And so should Joe Biden be on any of these ballots around the nation? Is this basically a scorched earth, let's get rid of both of these guys and move to somebody new? Will Republicans actually do anything that they say they're going to do? I doubt it. Because the Republican Party is comprised of losers. They like losing. They've turned losing into an art form. They know how to affect legislation without actually providing any of it on their own. They know how to affect it to make it more palatable to people who absolutely disagree with it. That's the entire Republican Party's mission in life, which is why I'm no longer a member of the party. I'm sorry. That's just ridiculous. The Republican Party they just don't have the stuff necessary to win in this political age. As we've seen, the Democrat Party will set aside the rule of law, set aside ethics regarding justice in these United States. They have set aside freedom of speech. They have set aside many of the things that we have in our Bill of Rights, all for the sake of keeping Joe Biden in power. Well, if that's the case, then can two play at this game? The answer is yes. However, it takes somebody willing to be a player. Now, I'm not advocating the Republican Party follow in the Democrat footsteps to suspend the Constitution based on their politics. But what I am saying is that there needs to be somebody in the Republican Party with a spine. Somebody with a spine, somebody with a willingness to take these guys, these gutter fighters, on in their own paradigm. Yeah, what needs to happen in some of these big red states? Joe Biden needs to be removed from the ballot. Do it quickly, because the Supreme Court's going to set all of this stuff aside. The Supreme Court cannot agree with the Colorado Supreme Court decision for two reasons. One, the Colorado Supreme Court does not get to arbitrate the U.S. Constitution. They certainly can with the Colorado Constitution. I don't know that there are any provisions of the Colorado Constitution that would forbid someone from being on a ballot, but they can only arbitrate that Constitution. The Supreme Court of the United States will look at the Colorado Supreme Court and say, that's our job, and vacate the ruling. I'm very sure of it. At least I'm 99.99% sure of that. However, there's another reason. And this is something you need to pay attention to. Let's say the Supreme Court upholds the Colorado decision. Let's say that that's what they do. If that's the case, we now live in a judicial oligarchy where judges are members of a super legislature, unelected in most cases, like these justices in Colorado. They're unelected, they're appointed. And so they make decisions for the good of all, according to their rather warped ideology. And so if indeed the Supreme Court upholds this decision, that would be a turning point in American history. Because suddenly we wouldn't be living in the United States, a constitutional republic with a Bill of Rights. We'd be living in a judicial oligarchy that essentially decisions about people's lives, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness will be determined by those far greater than us wearing black robes who have never actually done anything for a living except study law. In other words, they're idiot legalist savants. And they would be dictating the terms of life in these United States. The Supreme Court's not going to allow it because they don't want people to realize that's what's happening. Now, this is a function of the political process. Specifically, the Democrats have used, or the left, have long used the judicial branch of our government to legislate where legislatures would say no to their agenda items. And so the judicial branch of our government has sought to stay out of politics as best they can, but in this particular case, the Supreme Court is being forced into the political game. Now, if they don't stingingly reprimand the Colorado Supreme Court by reversing this decision forthwith in a 9-0 vote, which is what it ought to be, then we all know something about this nation, and we know something about the people leading it. And that's something that would be a dramatic change, officially, in this nation. A lot of us wonder, a lot of us grouse, a lot of us are saying, well, you know, what's going on with our country? I fear for my future, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but if indeed we still are basing that on basic rumor, gossip, we base that on discussions of what if, hypotheticals, But if the Supreme Court upholds this, Colorado Supreme Court, Katie bar the door. Katie bar the door. It would be an official sanction of the rule of judge as opposed to the rule of law. But will the Republican Party start moving to remove Joe Biden from the ballots? They should. They should. Because if they started doing that, then all of a sudden the hue and cry would go up across the land from Democrats. You can't do that. Oh, yeah, you can. Colorado just did it, and you all celebrated it. Speaking of celebrating it, what you have is you have a circumstance where liberal journalists are hailing, removing Trump from his offices or from the ballot. I mean, it's like, are you truly serious? I mean, don't get me wrong or anything, but I'm just looking at the idea that that might be the case. I'm sorry, I'm being distracted by something that's brand new on my computer. I have no idea why this is happening. Let me try this one more time. Okay, here we go. Left-leaning journalists and media outlets expressed their support for the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to remove former President Donald Trump from the 2024 primary ballot, condemning those who might oppose the move. Though many of these talking heads, including the Lincoln Project's Rick Wilson, anti-Trump commentator George Conway, New York Times' Mara Gay, have spent years claiming that Trump's actions are a threat to democracy, they reiterated their support for a genuine threat to democracy, the Colorado State Supreme Court decision. The court made the controversial decision on Tuesday. You know that already. The decision marks the first time in history that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment has been used to disqualify a presidential candidate. It's not going to stand. It is a novel understanding. It's a novel reading of Article 3. Article 2 actually discusses the due process rights of anybody in America. And last I heard, Donald Trump is an American and he has those rights. So they just ignore that and move right to the place. It's taking things out of context to pursue some remedy for something that otherwise would be illegal. Despite a multitude of prominent conservative figures calling the decision an election interference, prominent mainstream media figures, progressive leaders applauded it, insisting the top contender for the 2024 GOP presidential nomination deserves to be taken out of the running. So what do you have? What I was just talking about before. The left becoming public about their willingness to set aside the Constitution and Bill of Rights or just redefine those things for the sake of their politics. You okay with that? Are you all right with it? We need the Republican Party to fight fire with fire. We need them to start removing Joe Biden from ballots around the country. All this would stop. It will be stopped by the Supreme Court, but it's time to start playing a fair game with the left, who considers the American public, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights fair game. It's time to start slapping them around like they slap us around. Don't you think? The problem with it is do we have anybody in the Republican Party with the guts to actually stand up to these people? Apparently not. I haven't seen anything yet. Yeah, and of course, the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was passed to keep Confederate officials from running for national office. It's like anything else. The redefinition of our rights is the first way to lose them. To accept a definition of the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is intellectually bankrupt. And so are the people who are lauding this fantastic decision. By the way, in case you're wondering, Chris Christie has finally found his voice. He said that he's been running against Trump, and his entire presidential campaign is to defeat Donald Trump. He said this, quote, "I think he should be prevented from being president of the United States by the voters of this country." Yeah, that earned him applause. "I think it's bad for the country if the justices handle it instead." He rebuked the Colorado Supreme Court controversial decision. But he had to. He had to. Because if he wouldn't do that, then his entire qualifications as a lawyer, which he is, even a U.S. attorney, would be thrown into the weeds. And so even Chris Christie says that was a bad decision. He says he wants the voters to decide. Well, that's one good thing that Chris Christie said in this campaign. This is the Wells Report. Back in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. Hi, John David Wells, thanking you for being a part of our broadcast. Telephone number 817-379-2172. Susan Bunce Wachtel says, I don't believe the Republican Party has people of courage enough to fight back. I agree. I absolutely agree. And the Democrat Party and the left has taken advantage of the fact that the Republicans won't fight back. They just won't. In fact, they go along to get along. That's what Republicans do best. The entire party has no direction. Nobody has any idea what the Republican Party stands for. They say they're for smaller government, but keep voting for bigger government. They say that they are miserly when it comes to taxpayer dollars, but they spend like drunken sailors. With all due respect to drunken sailors. I know a lot of those guys. They're good people. I mean, on and on and on. The hypocrisy is ridiculous, and especially is focused on the ulterior motives of the Republican Party, which only seems to be interested in pursuing political expedience or political opportunism. That's what the entire party stands for. None of which is what we need now. We got a party that doesn't do its job. And when I say we, I'm talking about the American people. I'm not a Republican. They don't do anything. They're losers. I'm not a loser. And so even when confronted with somebody who actually wins, Donald Trump, somebody who actually cares about the country beyond politics, they can't even embrace him. They can't. They can't say, well, the party's changed. You know what? The cheese is moving and we're going to move with it. No. Trump's bad. Oh, Kinzinger, Liz Cheney, all these boneheads want to just keep the political process going because it's making them rich. That all has to change. And we've got an election to do it. I just hope that it's accurate. I hope the election is actually accurate. I'm not sure it will be, but we'll see, I guess. Advanced Democracy is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, at least they call themselves that. They conduct public interest research. They've identified significant violent rhetoric against justices and Democrats in direct response to what they say are former President Donald Trump's posts about the ruling on his platform, Truth Social. This, by the way, sort of takes away the nonpartisan aspect of this particular group because I'm sure, I mean, I haven't checked, so I'm making an assertion here that may not be accurate. I am relatively sure that they have not done a similar article when actual, honest-to-goodness, high Democrat Party officials openly called for violence against Republicans. I'm sure they didn't do any of this stuff. And they also say this. They also tie this all together. And this is an NBC News article. It's tough to decide where the bias begins and ends because it's NBC News. What they keep pointing out is that all of these threats, or at least they intimate that these threats are because of former President Donald Trump's post on Truth Social. Excuse me? Okay. All right. The simple case of the matter is that when people that have an unbridled access to free speech, when they have unbridled access to free speech, they use it and they say really dumb things, which are then routinely exploited by the leftist media in order to make all of us look like barbaric hooligans, which we are not. But we keep doing it. We keep making these threats. Stop. Stop making these threats. Do many of us believe our nation is under attack? Yes. Do many of us believe that something should be done about it? Yes. Do some of us believe that we should all take up arms and run into the streets? Yeah, some. Thankfully, an incredibly small minority. We don't need to do any of these things. All you do when you make threats, all you do when you say, my goodness sakes, there ought to be an armed insurrection. We should have a civil war. All you do in that is play into their narrative. That's all you do. You verify their propaganda. You have to stop it. Don't verify propaganda. These people aren't afraid of the American people malfunctioning. All that is for them is an opportunity to exploit it for their propagandist purposes. You know what they're afraid of? Losing power. And they have screwed this up by the numbers so badly, they're pretty sure they're going to lose power, and they are panicking. All of this is the result of leftist panicking. That everything that they've worked for decades is going to get blown up. Figuratively, of course. Not because the people of the United States are going to run in the streets and create a revolution. They would welcome that because then they could absolutely take charge, or they think they can. All these people that say, my God, they're going to declare martial law. Yeah, well, that requires troops to actually obey unconstitutional and illegal orders. So you just need to relax. The point of all this is stop making threats. If you want to hurt these people, do what hurts them the most. Remove them from power. There are lots of Americans who are Democrats. They hear me. Stop voting for the people you're voting for. Vote for somebody else. Change the power structure. Vote for another Democrat. I don't care. Just vote for a different one. All these incumbents, they think they own the place. It's time to reassert that we own the place, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or what have you. Stand up for this America. The stewardship that we have shown so far is insufficient. We need to be more patriotic than we have been in a long time. Time to move that forward. That's hour number one of the Wells Report. Stick around. Hour number two is next. for this Thursday, the 21st of December. See you in a minute.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning, I'm John David Wells. This is a broadcast where we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. In short, we de-propagandize the mainstream media. We make commentary. That is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine, and so we debate. Two ways to debate. You can join us on the chat room. You can find that on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, Rumble, and Patreon. You can send me an email, thewellsreport@frontier.com. When you do that, make sure you put in all caps of the subject line, the platform that you watch this broadcast on. I will answer your emails, I promise. And you can also call us, 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. Political science. Political science is a discipline whereby the hearts and minds of any given populace are manipulated for political effect. This is something being practiced at a high art here in the United States, so much so, in fact, that politics has set aside reality. There are various tools being used. We just discussed one of them, propaganda, where you leave out important details that are exculpatory to your political agenda. In other words, they prove your political agenda is somehow bankrupt, whether intellectually or from a standpoint of reality. Politics in the United States has gotten to the point where a lot of totalitarian societies fail insofar as those politics supplant actual reality or human nature. The device is used, propaganda. There's also another device used, and that is to accuse your political opponent of what you yourself have done or are doing. This was made, at least we got another example of this, with a Liz Cheney interview on Special Report with Bret Baier on Fox News. Former Representative Liz Cheney of Wyoming alleged that former President Donald Trump would unravel the rule of law if he wins re-election and blow through guardrails of the Constitution. She said she was fearful, pointing to his efforts to contest the 2020 election and in his response to the January 6th, 2021 Capitol attack. Now, as I said, we point out bias. This is biased. This is being reported by USA Today. And they talk about Liz Cheney being fearful about Donald Trump's response to the January 6th, 2021 Capitol attack. Well, the response should be this should read the alleged response of Donald Trump to the January 6th, 2021 attack. To be perfectly honest with you, the intellectual dishonesty being reported by the mainstream media is rife, and it's undeniable when it comes to that particular topic. And she would know a lot about it, as she was one of two Republicans on the January 6th committee. And she talks about unraveling the rule of law. Had I been in Bret Baier's chair, I would ask her what unraveling of the rule of law has she seen in the intervening years since Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. I wonder what her answer would have been. The rule of law is in a shambles in this nation. It's absolutely in a shambles. The rule of law is not apparent. Equal justice under the law is nothing more than a quaint illusion by the greatest political minds of the 18th century, according to these people. And that is absolutely, morally, institutionally, intellectually bankrupt. It's absolutely ridiculous. The rule of law in this nation, as I said, is in a shambles, and it's all because of politics. See, that Constitution of the United States has always been an impediment to people like Liz Cheney and her ilk, because the Constitution of the United States gets in the way. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky is famous for saying that the government of the United States is not empowered to stop Americans from doing something that the government doesn't believe is politically sound. The Constitution of the United States limits the government, not the people. That's a great quote, because that's the actual truth. And so this idea where you blame your enemies for what you yourself are doing, plainly evident in this. The January 6th committee hearings were nothing more than a way to create as many negative things about President Trump in an effort to stop him from being a candidate for the 2024 election. That's all it was. The videotapes that have been released certainly don't get the kind of news coverage they should, because much of what we saw, up to and including videos of people telling their fellow protesters to not harm police officers, never made an appearance in the January 6th committee at all. That was a one-sided anti-American exercise in political propaganda. That's all it was. And Liz Cheney was right in the middle of it. She doesn't have any choice but to stand up for it. But then to accuse President Donald Trump of what she herself has done is misdirection. She should be held accountable and responsible for what she's done on January 6th. She should. But she calls herself a Republican, and there is no way for her to be able to stand up to that assertion. She's not a Republican. And if she is a Republican, then she's a part of the Republican Party that doesn't actually exist. And so what she says is unravel the rule of law. You've done that. What you did was create a hit piece with ABC News producers actually choreographing the event. There was no due process. There was no defense. It was a one-sided display of political propaganda and nothing more. And now you stand up bravely for the rule of law? Sorry, doesn't pass muster. Blow through the guardrails of the Constitution, huh? The deep state blew through the rails of the Constitution during the Trump presidency, and certainly afterwards. That ridiculous raid on Mar-a-Lago. That just plain informationally bankrupt reporting on it. It's absolutely ridiculous. In that interview, she said this, quote, "If you look at the steps he would have to take in terms of simply refusing to enforce court orders and comply with court orders with which he disagrees, putting people in key positions as Attorney General, for example, or as head of the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel, unethical lawyers who would help him, frankly, blow through many of the guardrails of the Constitution. That horse is out of the corral too, ma'am, and you know it." Putting key people in the office of the Attorney General? Isn't that what President Biden has done? Merrick Garland has made a mockery of the rule of law. So that's all already out of the bag. Unethical lawyers who would help him What about the unethical lawyers that helped the Mueller investigation? What about those guys? Well, that's whataboutism. Well, there's a synonym for whataboutism. That's a word that means the same thing but is different. Whataboutism also has another word that goes right with it. That's hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy. Yeah, Liz Cheney in this interview is essentially showing everyone that it's only bad if Donald Trump does it. If her political allies do the same things, oh, that's fine. Go ahead and put somebody unethical in the chair of Attorney General of the United States. Go ahead. But if Donald Trump does it, my God, it'll be disaster. Can you see the plainness of this? The plainness of this is simple. We have a partisan in the office of the Attorney General. And it is a disaster. She goes on to say, I think it's a very real concern that he would take steps very quickly that would unravel the rule of law. We've already covered it. Cheney, one of Trump's most vocal critics, served as vice chairman of the committee investigating the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack and voted to impeach Trump after the riot. In her book, quote, Oath and Honor, a Memoir and a Warning, unquote, she criticized her former colleagues for being enablers and collaborators for the former president. Okay. Do we see any of that in the current president? Do we see collaborators and enablers? Like, for example, the IRS investigation that was stopped into Joe Biden? The constant unrealistic din of people saying there's no evidence against the president for accepting money. Yeah, there is. Yeah, there absolutely is. Just because at this particular moment, actually some money has been traced going to President Biden. But the law doesn't say you have to actually benefit from these bribery scandals. Your family can too. Your business associates can too. That makes you guilty just the same. So much for the rule of law. Trump has long been a frontrunner in the 2024 Republican presidential primary and indeed has led the entire election, according to some polls. The Iowa caucuses, the New Hampshire primary are coming. Cheney urged GOP voters not to choose Trump. Don't vote for the person who's already tried to seize power. Ms. Cheney, President Trump has already had power. He didn't do any of the things that you're fearful of. He didn't do any of those things. Nothing. Why would he do it again? No, what you're worried about is being exposed. That's why the left is panicking in this nation. Do I believe that Donald Trump will come in and fire everybody and start over? No. Do I believe he would even go as far as, say, for example, I would if I was in that office? No, I don't believe he would. But what I do believe he might do, and I certainly hope he will do, is expose all of this in no uncertain terms. What I hope he does is he doesn't surround himself with saboteurs like he did last time. These turncoat Republicans, like Liz Cheney, for example, that tried to sabotage his presidency. And you're saying, there's that pro-Trump guy again. My God, he's just a Trump guy. He's part of the cult. No, I'm not. I'm an American. Believe me, if this was happening with a Democrat president, I'd be just as incensed by it as I am now. I've proven that over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, when everybody was trying to chase down Joe Biden, I said, you better have the goods. When they were trying to chase down Donald Trump for an impeachment, I said, you better have the goods. Liz Cheney's made the wrong choices. Liz Cheney is accusing her political opponents for what she herself is guilty of. And you have to see it. You have to understand it. You have to know that the mainstream media is complicit, and you likely do because you're watching this broadcast. But you have to see through it enough to make a vote. And then you have to chase that vote through the process to make sure it got counted, which is something that we can't be sure of. And that is something else that we have to deal with in this nation. Food for thought. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. A judge has set aside the California carry law, and this is good news for everyone. Back with more to explain in just a couple of moments. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. The winter solstice. Talk about more of that. More about today. Can I start this segment over? Hey, this is the Wells Report. More about the winter solstice. Never mind. A federal judge yesterday temporarily blocked a California law that would have banned the carrying of firearms in most public places after ruling it violates the Second Amendment. U.S. District Judge Cormac Carney granted a preliminary injunction blocking the law, calling it sweeping, repugnant to the Second Amendment, and openly defiant of the Supreme Court. He said the law also deprives people the ability to defend themselves and their loved ones. Big win for the California Rifle and Pistol Association. Quote, California progressive politicians refuse to accept the Supreme Court's mandate from the Bruen case and are trying every creative ploy they can imagine to get around it. This, according to California Association's president. That's the California Association's president, Chuck Michel. The court saw through the state's gambit. So, Randy Kozich, executive director of the National Rifle Association, told Fox News the Wednesday ruling was one more affirmation that Americans have a constitutional right to carry a firearm for self-defense, and the government cannot infringe upon this right. The law was signed by Governor Gavin Newsom in September, was slated to go into effect January 1st, effectively banning people from carrying concealed weapons in 26 places, including public parks and playgrounds, churches, banks, and zoos, regardless of whether they have a concealed weapons carry permit or not. Not that it's easy to get a California state concealed carry permit. It's damn near impossible because you have to convince somebody you have a need. Really? Yeah, you see this. The law says the state may grant a concealed carry permit. The law in Texas says shall grant a concealed carry permit unless a background investigation, which the left just routinely insists doesn't exist, proves that you're not fit to carry a concealed weapon or a weapon at all. California doesn't do that. Everybody's guilty in California. It's only a matter of degrees of how you're guilty, and so on. Michelle said that under the law, permit holders wouldn't be able to drive across town without passing through a prohibited area and breaking the law. He argued the ruling makes Californians safer because criminals are deterred when law-abiding citizens can defend themselves. It's true. In a statement to Fox News Digital, Newsom said the Wednesday ruling defies common sense. This is what a guy who wants to be the president of the United States says about the Second Amendment. Quote, this ruling outrageously calls California's data-backed gun safety efforts repugnant. What is repugnant is this ruling, which greenlights the proliferation of guns in our hospitals, libraries, and children's playgrounds, spaces which should be safe for all. Notice he didn't mention schools. Yeah. This is, again, another example of political propaganda. It's what you leave out. He said Californians will, quote, keep fighting to defend our laws and to enshrine a right to safety in the Constitution. The lives of our kids depend on it. No, the lives of your kids depend more on whether or not they're going to get a fake pill of some kind that's going to kill them because it's fentanyl. You're worried about losing kids? How many kids have you lost in California because of fentanyl, because of the wide open border governor? I'm sorry. I got to be perfectly honest with you. When it comes to Gavin Newsom, I see a smarmy, dishonest guy. I see an anti-American. I see a guy who is all about Gavin Newsom. I see a narcissist. That's what I see. And that is something to be reviled, not to be revered. So Gavin Newsom is talking about, he went on, by the way, to call the Second Amendment a suicide pact. The obliteration of the Second Amendment is a suicide pact. This guy speaks in opposites. You know why? Because he's a villain. That's just my personal opinion. I'm sure there are a lot of people that disagree, although I haven't heard from any of them. I hear a lot from Gavin Newsom, but I don't hear much from his supporters. I wonder why that is. Yeah. This is the Wells Report, back with more in just a moment.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. It's the winter solstice. I was practicing. It's the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. But remember, it's not the length of the day, it's how you use it. Okay, moving on. What do you think of the Ivy League? Harvard, Yale, Columbia. What do you think of the Ivy League? What do you think their main mission is? Is it to educate the best and the brightest? Or has it turned into a cavernous mess of political indoctrination? I am not college educated. Make no mistake, I've done lots of studying. Man, you wouldn't believe it. In fact, on my bio, I say I have a master's degree in communications from Whitson IQ University, USA Academy, or USA campus. I've traveled this nation. I've spoken to people. I realize that many people would look down their nose and say, my God, this guy talks like he thinks he knows something. I do. I know similar things to, say, for example, Walter Cronkite, who didn't have a college degree, and also Peter Jennings, who didn't even graduate from high school. What did we do? Well, we put ourselves in a position to be on the leading edge of public communication. The technology and the philosophies, the background, all of the things that we had to know in order to communicate with you has to do with statistics, psychology, anthropology, politics, journalistic ethics, all of those things. But not necessarily in a theoretical sense. Face it, college is theoretical. No, I started practicing my profession, which is that of broadcaster, at age 15, and I've been pursuing it ever since. The willingness to tell the truth when everybody else doesn't. The willingness to put fact ahead of fancier politics. That's what I've done on this broadcast and in all of my career. Entertainment, sure. But is that the sole purpose? Certainly not in the talk radio world that I committed myself to on 9/11/2001. And so what I have learned is not theoretical. It's not based on the ravings of some college professor who uses what he's or she is supposed to teach as a way to assert politics and indoctrination. I see things clearly. Can you say the same thing about people that are the product of the Ivy League? The Ivy League is in trouble. Seems to me that what they do is they create crop after crop after crop of pseudo humanitarian elites that believe they're smarter than anybody else. But you know what? When the rubber meets the road, especially now, there are real problems. We keep hearing about how students of universities are having trouble paying back their college loans. Yeah. Why? You've got an Ivy League credential. You've got an Ivy League degree. Why in heaven's name would you have trouble paying off anything? Because the product of the Ivy League is tainted. If you want trouble in your business, hire somebody from the Ivy League. And that taint, that smell, that destruction is plainly evident. Harvard University, just according to a guy who consults students in high school on how to become get an early acceptance to Harvard, where you can go into debt beyond your eyeballs and everything else you own. He says that the number of students that are rejecting an opportunity to go to Harvard has risen 17%. That's almost 1 in 5. Why? Because they don't want to go out into the real world and discover that the capitalist society has no use for people that want to tell them what they know as opposed to learning what they need to know, which is a skill not taught by anybody in the Ivy League. It's a bankrupt institution. It's also a a cavern of anti-Jewish bigotry, as we found out. Indeed, the American university system, if you ask me, the majority of it is pro-terrorism. And we've seen it with intellectually bankrupt demonstrations in our streets. And so Harvard is facing the actual accountability for its insidious work against the United States. And so goes the Ivy League. These people get big jobs in government posts, and they are doing what they have been taught to do, which is to tell the rest of us how to live, and indeed impose what they believe is their living formula, not proven by any kind of real achievement. They keep trying to impose their ideologies on us. Why? Well, because Harvard University is Harvard University. That's why. The Ivy League is the Ivy League. That's why. Really? What does that actually mean? Give you an example of somebody who's a product of the Ivy League and me, someone who is not. I put my pants on one leg at a time. So does everybody else. It doesn't make any difference what fancy paper you have hanging on a wall in your I love me wall. What can you do? That's what I'm interested in. And that's what America's industries and businesses are interested in. And they're realizing that, goodness gracious, Wesleyan University in Oklahoma is the university whose product is something you want to hire. The students of that university actually get an education. Make no mistake, there are important and adversarial conversations, debates, and so on surrounding that education. But they don't learn how to destroy America or denigrate America as a matter of course. They learn how to make this nation better. Why would you go to Harvard when there's Wesleyan University in Oklahoma? Especially if you want to make a living. The bankruptcy has reached the president's office of Harvard. This is someone who is perfectly willing to go along with the anti-Jewish bigot crowd on her own campus. Not willing, for example, to do anything except damage control once she's been found out. And when you do things like that, your hands had better be clean. Her hands are not. People looking through her doctoral dissertation find plagiarism, or what Harvard likes to call insufficient attribution. Oh, okay. And what does Harvard want to do about that? Do they want to say, this is a charlatan we need to get rid of? No. No, they say, go back and fix it. Go back and fix it. I am sure that Harvard hired her in no small part based on that dissertation. And of course, her identity, black female. Checked off all the boxes. She's our president. Bravely stood behind her. It was a unanimous decision from Harvard Incorporated to keep her in her place, to keep her in her office. Oh, really? What does that say about Harvard? Just what I said. They put their pants on one leg at a time, and they're no better than the rest of us. So why are we paying better money to them? Why are we creating, through the auspices of Harvard and the rest of the Ivy League, anti-Americans who want to pursue a totalitarian rule in this nation solely because they are absolutely convinced that they are better than everybody else? Why would we do that? Well, At least there's accountability, and at least it's happening. The university finds more duplicative language in President Claudine Gay's work. Yeah. You suppose she'd still be in her job if she was, I don't know, a mature white male? Or would she have been ostracized, exiled to academic Elba for sins that are beyond the pale? Somehow I suspect that indeed Claudine Gay is going to live through exactly what the Harvard board wants her to live through, which is just a little bump in the road. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's okay. We're checking off boxes. Claudine Gay has cost Harvard University $1 billion so far, but that's no big deal because somebody gave them $42 billion. They can fund that university independently for the rest of time. Well, as long as, say, for example, the United States is capitalist. What's really funny about all this is that the Ivy League, at least from what I've been able to observe, is actually a cancer. It's actually a cancer. These people pursuing socialistic totalitarianism, the first thing that they would do is confiscate all that money from Harvard. It would become Harvard State University in the new United Socialist States of America, the good old USSA. So they are creating the product of their demise and perpetuating it in the case of Claudine Gay. Let me give you another example of this ridiculous intellectual bankruptcy that is screwing up this nation. The Colorado Supreme Court, in a 4-3 decision, decided to remove a presidential candidate from primary ballots because they don't like him. 4-3. Has President Trump been convicted of anything? No. Will he be convicted of anything? Maybe, but it won't stand, and I doubt that he's going to be convicted of anything in the first place. But that didn't stop the Colorado Supreme Court from setting aside the rule of law in the United States, Liz Cheney, the rule of law, due process, Bill of Rights, all of it for the sake of their politics. What does that have to do with the Ivy League? The 4 justices that voted to remove Donald Trump are all products of the Ivy League. Well, what about the other 3? Aren't they all Democrats? Yeah, they're all Democrats. The other 3 were educated in Colorado law schools. They voted to leave Trump on the ballot. What is the Ivy League doing? The Ivy League is powered by ego, narcissism, elitism, and nothing more. These people truly believe they know more than you, and they're smarter than you, and they're better than you in every way, and they're going to prove it by forcing you to live their political delirium. You must be joking. There's this movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it tells the story of a stuntman. And this stuntman in one of the scenes confronts Bruce Lee because it takes part. It's a historical piece. And this stuntman confronts Bruce Lee and derides Bruce Lee as saying, you know, every time I see one of you dancers come in here, I just laugh. And Bruce Lee challenges him. Bruce Lee does some of this beautiful Chinese kung fu that he was so famous for. And the stuntman picks him up and throws him up against a car. See, that's what we're dealing with here. The dancers coming out of Harvard in the Ivy League are about to be thrown against a car by a rough and tough American. Oh, they didn't cover that in Harvard, huh? They didn't cover how to stay out of the hands of somebody who can really mess up your day? So what exactly did you learn? Not much useful of anything. This is the Wells Report. Back in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. Hi, John David Wells, thanking you very much for being a part of this broadcast. Cowboy from Hell just showed up on the chat room. Cowboy says, Ivy League products, you say? Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Ron DeSantis, Tom Cotton, Steve Mnuchin, Ben Carson, Jared Kushner, Steve Bannon, Mike Pompeo, Kayleigh McEnany, Elise Stefanik. Yeah, they're all products of the Ivy League. Are they elites? Yeah. Do they believe they're smarter than everybody else? Probably. Are they imposing their theoretical life, not just one in academia, but one in actual political power? Their theoretical life on the rest of us? Yeah. What did you think? Did you think I was just a blind devotee to those names? The answer is no. Ted Cruz. I like Ted Cruz. I think he's fantastic. I think he's wonderful. I think he's an American. I do. But I want to see more action from Ted Cruz. I'm not just talking about rhetoric. I want to see action. Ted, I love you. But what have you gotten done? Josh Hawley. There's a guy who's sharp as hell. But once again, what has he done? The senators and the Republican senators in the Senate are led around by the nose by an intellectually bankrupt guy named Mitch McConnell, who has the lowest approval rating among Americans in the nation among American politicians. He's got the lowest approval rating of anybody. You really got to go some to be less approved than Joe Biden, whose approval rating is somewhere in the 30s. I'd like to see what real statistics say. Steve Mnuchin, Ben Carson. Ben Carson's a good guy. Like Ben Carson a lot. He's done a lot of things. He has. Product of the Ivy League? Sure. Humble? Absolutely. Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner is a guy I don't know much about. Neither does anybody else. All I know of Jared Kushner is a guy who essentially handled the Abraham Accords and then was roundly criticized for being paid $2 billion from the Saudis. What do you do for that money, by the way? Steve Bannon, another good guy. Another guy willing to say what he thinks and what he believes. Is he trying to impose himself on the United States? Yeah. Am I trying to pose myself on the United States? No. No, I'm not. I'm simply trying to inform people. Mike Pompeo, another guy I have a lot of real regard for. Good dude. Best resume among American political figures in the United States. Kayleigh McEnany. I like Kayleigh McEnany. Right up to the point where she starts imposing her religious ideology through politics. That really bothers me. Elise Stefanik. Elise Stefanik is somebody else who is, yeah, okay. All these people are fine. I don't have any problem with any of these people, except when they try to impose themselves on these United States. Every single one of those people do that every day. See, I come from a different school. I believe what you should do is serve, not be served by. I believe that what you should do is you should do your work in an effort to improve the lives of the people you serve. And I prove that every day. It is the winter solstice. It is the 21st of December, the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. Yeah. It's the beginning of winter. Yeah. And how do people celebrate? Well, here are a few of them around the world. First is Soyal, S-O-Y-A-L. Soyal is the winter solstice celebration of the Hopi Indians in northern Arizona. Ceremonies and rituals include purification, dancing, gift giving. At the time of the solstice, Hopis welcome kachinas, protective spirits from the mountains. Prayer sticks are crafted and used for various blessings and other rituals. So whatever you do, take a moment today and soil yourself. Let's see, Yalda. It's the Persian festival, or Shab-e-Yalda, and a celebration of the winter solstice that started in ancient times. It marks the last day of the Persian month of Azar. Yalda is viewed traditionally as a victory of light over dark, the birthday of the sun god Mithra. Families celebrate together with special foods like nuts and pomegranates. And some stay awake all night to welcome the morning sun. Inti Raymi. This solstice celebration comes in June rather than December, but for Peru, it's a winter solstice. This is an Incan celebration in honor of the sun god, originally celebrated by the Incas before the arrival of the Spanish. The festivals include feasts and sacrifices of animals and possibly even children. And who among us here in America haven't thought from time to time to sacrifice one of their children for whatever they've... Never mind. The Spaniards banned the holiday, but it was revived with mock sacrifices instead of real ones, thank goodness, in the 20th century, and is still celebrated today. Saturnalia. It is the ancient Roman festival of Saturnalia. It's the most closely linked to the modern celebration of Christmas. The festival happened around the time of the winter solstice, celebrated the end of the planting season. There were games and feasts, gift giving for several days. The social order was inverted. Slaves did not work and were briefly treated as equals. Midwinter in Antarctica. Even Antarctica gets its share of the solstice, thanks to researchers staying there over the long, dangerously cold season. While those in the northern hemisphere enjoy the most daylight hours, the southern hemisphere, they're celebrating midwinter. Festivities include special meals, films, sometimes even handmade gifts, and the specific freezing of certain body parts. So that's just a small representation of some of the winter solstice celebrations. I certainly hope you enjoy yours, whatever it is. How do I celebrate the winter solstice? By trying not to get hit by a car. This has been the Wells Report. I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks very much for joining us. Hokey dokey. Okie dokie. Cowboy says, McConnell has an 8% approval rating. Ironically, 8% is what he buffers at when answering a question. Ow. Man. Yeah. Ever since he did that face plant, man. See, when I did my face plant in my bike accident, when I smashed my face against concrete, I think it made me better. It didn't do Mitch McConnell any good whatsoever. An 8% approval rating. Unbelievable. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, listen, Cowboy, thanks very much for being a part of the show. I appreciate your comments. And let's see, for the rest of us, I'm going to do tomorrow's show, so make sure you join us for that, okay? Tell your friends about this. Make sure you ring the bell so that you know when we're on the air. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share. Please, by all means, tell your friends about this broadcast. If you'd like to make a monetary donation, go to Patreon and subscribe. $1 or $2 a month would help us a lot. So God bless you and yours. Take good care. Have a great day. And by all means, follow my winter solstice celebration. Work really, really hard not to get hit by a car.